AI is the new front door to search. Google makes big changes. Trump and big tech are finally getting along, but his base may not like it. Microsoft open sources basic code from 1976, and is there an AI bubble or not? Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Don't use chatbots as search engines was great advice until it wasn't, according to Simon Willison, an open source developer and respected voice on search. He calls GPT-5 his research goblin. Fast, tireless, and useful, but not entirely trustworthy. That's the shift. Let AI surface and even critique sources. You still make the call. ChatGPT and Perplexity are already being used in this way. In the US, almost 8 in 10 ChatGPT users say they treat it like a search engine. Perplexity, built for this, now serves about 22 million active users. They're fast, they cite sources, and they let you dig deeper in ways old search never did. And now Google has joined in. AI overviews now sit at the very top of search results. For many queries, you can even keep asking questions and go deeper and deeper. And for heavy use, Google is testing AI mode and deep search with advanced features tied to paid subscriptions. The impact is huge. Pew Research found that when an AI summary shows up, people click a traditional link only 8% of the time, compared with 15% when there's no summary. That shift is already cutting into publisher traffic. My advice? Here's what I'm doing. I use one model and use another to check it. Ask GPT to think deeply, then bounce the same question off Perplexity. And if you're using Google, try using those follow-up prompts when they appear. You might be surprised at how far you can push this. It's like when we were learning search for the first time. You got to play with it, try it out, and discover. Everybody's been talking about Google over the past couple of weeks. Nano Banano, the new image editor, has been getting a lot of attention. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out. It is one of the best AI image editors out there. And there's some other great stuff that Google's doing. But Google's facing some challenges on its core businesses. The very AI that is making it so successful is threatening the pay-per-click ad model that still drives most of its revenue. If people stop clicking on ads, Google's revenue engine slows down. And regulators aren't easing up either. In the US, Google dodged a breakup in a major antitrust case, at least for now, but the remedies phase is still looming. And in Europe, it's staring at a $3.5 billion fine for anti-competitive behavior with its ad tech. Inside the company, there's a dramatic rebuild going on. For instance, about 35% of managers with tiny teams, some just 3 direct reports, are now gone, or they've come back as individual contributors. The idea is to flatten out the hierarchy, cut bureaucracy, and let product teams move faster. Business units are being consolidated too, from search to hardware to cloud, all with the same goal: less overhead, and in every area, Google is expecting its own people to use AI to become more effective. But none of this works without the plumbing. Alphabet is on track to spend as much as $85 billion this year on servers, data centers, and networks. That's the type of spending that's going to be necessary to make AI in search and Gemini at scale even possible. So while the headlines are screaming AI, the real story is a huge company rewriting its business model, trimming layers of management, and betting billions on infrastructure, all the while watching regulators closing in on them. President Trump in the US needed good news after a dismal jobs report. So he brought in the heavyweights: Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, Sam Altman, even Mark Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates. The only conspicuous absence was Elon Musk, and that's for obvious reasons. But the message of this dinner was clear. Big tech will show up when Trump needs to look strong. They promised billions in AI investment, highlighting the fact that tech is the one bright spot in the US economy. But a hot mic told the real story. Zuckerberg, leaning into Trump, said, Sorry, I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure what number you wanted. So we weren't talking about corporate vision. We were talking about political theater. The CEOs were there to make Trump look good. And in return, Trump is paying them back. He's made it clear that he opposes new regulations of big tech, especially in Europe, and he says he'll push back hard against any attempt to rein them in. But his base might not be as supportive. At NatCon 5, the National Conservatism Conference, speakers were painting AI developers as moral enemies. Jeffrey Miller called them traitors to our nation, apostates to our faith, and threats to our kids, and urged a holy war on big tech. Others warned that AI could lead to civilizational suicide. Attendance at NatCon was reportedly thin this year. Those that attended were the true believers, the big workers, and possibly the influencers. Because some of these voices still carry weight. Laura Loomer, one of Trump's loudest allies, is pushing to end outsourcing to India and make call centers American again. And if Trump bends to that pressure, as he has in the past with Loomer, it could hit tech companies that depend on offshore labor to stay lean. On stage, big tech props up Trump. Off stage, his base is turning hostile. The alliance may look solid, but the cracks are real. Microsoft just released the original 6502 basic code written by Bill Gates and Rick Welland in 1976. It's now on GitHub under an MIT license, and yes, the repo shows a timestamp from 48 years ago. That code powered early machines like the Apple II, Commodore PET, VIC-20, and the Commodore 64. Millions of people wrote their first lines of code on it, staying up all night to see "hello" appear on their screen. In 1977, Commodore licensed it for $25,000, a deal that put Microsoft Basic in homes and schools across the world. The version that was released, labeled 1.1, even includes a bug fix to its garbage collector that Gates himself worked on back in 1978. 7,000 lines of assembly language, the DNA of personal computing, are now preserved and shareable. Microsoft has been opening its archives in recent years. They've released MS-DOS, GW Basic, and more. It's part of Nadella's push to embrace open source while celebrating Microsoft's roots. Why it matters? Well, it's a trip down memory lane for some people. It's also an invitation to explore the origins of software that shaped an industry. Stock markets are at all-time highs. But here's the catch. Most of that lift is coming from big tech and AI. The so-called Magnificent Five, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, and Amazon, have driven much of the S&P 500's gains. Without them, the index looks a lot less spectacular. But Goldman Sachs says this isn't a bubble, at least not yet. They point to the price-to-earnings ratios, or PE, and that's the price of a stock divided by its annual profit. It's a pretty good indicator of the value of a stock. Now, the Big Five average a price-to-earnings ratio of about 28. They're expensive, but nowhere near the 50-to-1 we saw during the dot-com bubble. There are outliers. Palantir, for example, trades at an eye-watering multiple. And Goldman Sachs is warning that if AI spending cools, the S&P could drop by as much as 15 to 20%. But is it a bubble or not? Nobody's really sure. What is sure is that AI is now the engine behind Wall Street's record run, and its biggest risk if the spending spree slows. And that's our show. If you like what we're doing, please share the show with others. Give us a like or comment on your favorite podcast app or site. I'm your host, Jim Love. And if the gods of Google and Alexa are smiling and you're hearing this on those speakers, I'm having what I wish for you, a marvelous Monday.